Good evening. This is Casey O'Brien, Executive Director and Principal Investigator at the National CyberWatch Center. Welcome to our first live broadcast using both Facebook Live and Twitter Live. This is quite a juggling act. I'm going to be streaming Facebook Live on my laptop, using Twitter Live on my phone here, trying to manage comments, post some comments and whatnot. So bear with me as I manage both here. But I appreciate you joining me. I wanted to talk a little bit about our newly created and launched what we're calling Complete Cloud-Based Lab Solution. We launched this in August. We've partnered with a company out of Baltimore, Maryland, InfoSec Learning, to deliver this solution, and I'm really happy with it. I want to talk a little bit about our history working with both physical and virtual lab environments, answering the question, why us? Then talk a little bit about some of the current lab solutions, and then dive into some of the specifics of the complete cloud-based lab solution, and really talk a little bit about some of the problems that we're trying to solve with this solution, and then point you to some resources, and we'll call the night. So a little bit about our history working with both physical and virtual lab environments. So we've been really head down, knee deep, if you will, in the weeds of experimenting with ways to deliver hands-on information security, both education and training, for over a decade. What started as a look into physical environments then quickly morphed into virtual solutions, and we've used a number of different solutions over the years, and bring that experience to bear along with our large network of subject matter experts. So National CyberWatch Center has over 200 2- and 4-year academic institutions that are members of the National CyberWatch Center. We have about 50 plus industry and government entities, and that's a fairly large network with a lot of subject matter experts that we can bring to bear to create these various solutions that we think are going to solve some of our academic members' problems. Specifically, how do we create cost-effective or implement cost-effective hands-on labs without really having to manage gear, racks of gear, internet connections? How can we integrate it with existing solutions? How can we make sure the content is what industry wants, tied to certifications, performance-based, and currently and kept current or up to date? So some of the current lab solutions, I just talked about really the CyberWatch network and what we can bring to bear, both our experience over a decade in developing both physical and virtual environments to teach hands-on information security, but also the deep subject matter experts that we can bring to bear on creating content that's relevant, timely, up to date. And that, in my opinion, is one of the main things that lacks in current solutions, right? Plus, many of the solutions are plug-in based, and that's been a real challenge for us. What was fine in 2010 to go with Java-based plug-in type solutions, that's a deal breaker in today's environments with various OSs, and especially with just the ever evolving browser landscape. Current solutions also typically don't integrate with a school's learning management system. So instead of having a single sign-on solution where a student can log into an LMS, Moodle, Blackboard, Desire to Learn, you name it, right, and then access lab exercises from that LMS, oftentimes faculty have to set up additional accounts, right? So there's separate credential management, and it can become very confusing for students to figure out, okay, where do I have to go to do this, right? And so we wanted to address some of those shortcomings in the current lab solutions. So what does the National CyberWatch Center lab solution provide, or what are some of the problems that we're trying to solve? One is that the entire solution is based on a private cloud-based infrastructure. So schools can use it immediately. There's no upfront cost to schools nor any ongoing fees, unlike some of the current solutions where you pay tens of thousands of dollars for an appliance, an annual maintenance fee, right? And then perhaps, right, somebody's actually a faculty typically usually has to manage that device, right? There are no upfront costs to schools nor any ongoing fees. We have hundreds, I think the count is somewhere around 170 as of today, hands-on labs. And these labs, they're really tutorial-based, if you will, right? Step-by-step instructions on how to complete a specific lab have been mapped to 8 of the National CyberWatch Center courses. And I'm going to post something here, give me a second, in the comments where you can go get more information, but it's lab.nationalcyberwatch.org. And you can see the 8 courses that we've developed labs around. They are basically a Networking 1 course, which maps to the CompTIA Net Plus certification. We've got both Linux Server 1 and 2, which map to the CompTIA Linux Plus powered by LPI certifications. We've got hands-on labs for an Information Security Fundamentals type course, which maps to a CompTIA Security Plus professional cert. We've got scripting fundamentals labs. We've got ethical hacking and system defense, which are very, very good labs. I would put those labs especially up against any vendor's labs, including those in the commercial space. We've got a Digital Forensics 1 offering, and network security, which looks at kind of layer 2, layer 3 switch router security, VPN. And again, that URL is lab.nationalcyberwatch.org. You go to that site, get more information, right? So hundreds of virtual labs mapped to not only National CyberWatch Center courses, but many professional certifications. I mentioned plugins being one of the difficulties with many current lab offerings. And so we designed around that. Everything is HTML5 in our solution, so there are no plugins needed. As long as you have an HTML5 browser, you can access the labs immediately. I mentioned that these are tutorial-based labs, so they're step-by-step tutorials with corresponding virtual machines. So in some cases, the lab exercise may require 5 or 6 virtual machines. And one example I can think of is in some of the advanced ethical hacking and systems defense labs, the attacker is on a public IP address space trying to compromise a host on a private non-routable address space. And so in that example, I think there are maybe 4 or 5 virtual machines that are used, right? The attacker is going to compromise the system on an internal private LAN, pivot internally, and then try to compromise other hosts on that private LAN. Those infected systems will reach back out to the attacker, at which point the attacker can control those systems. Some labs require maybe 1 or 2 virtual machines, so the environment's smart enough to be able to spin up the appropriate virtual machines given the specific lab that the student or faculty is completing. We just launched Instructor Analytics, allowing faculty to see the activity of their students. And in a future rev of that instructor dashboard, if you will, or analytic view into what students are doing, will include some sort of a skills challenge. So imagine completing a hands-on lab, say doing some trace file analysis, doing some packet analysis, right? And you're getting comfortable using a tool and you're working through a trace file and you're looking for specific information in the trace file to complete the lab. And then the next rev of that instructor analytics or dashboard then would provide some sort of a challenge where the student would have to then validate the knowledge and skills they were just developing in that tutorial, right, for a grade, where then the values that the student are putting into the skills challenge will be graded, and that grade then will be returned back into the learning management system gradebook. So as I mentioned, and I just mentioned, right, this solution leverages learning tools integration, meaning if you have a learning management system that supports LTI, you can interface with this private cloud solution, right? So InfoSec Learning, the main provider of the environment and the ones helping us develop the lab exercises, they wrote some middleware that interfaces with, uses LTI, that interfaces with your LMS and our back-end lab environment, right? So basically you got single sign-on capability, which is a big deal, right? It makes it really easy for an instructor to basically just point people to an LMS for the course shell, set up links to the labs in the virtual environment. Students log into the course shell and they're good to go. Right. Let's see. We have the ability to update and distribute content seamlessly without any effort from the school. This is a big deal. Many of the current solutions, right, although they have very good quality assurance of the lab exercises, oftentimes don't really have a strategy for updating content or especially fixing errors. Since this is an all digital offering, we can easily update content. If there are typos, for example, they can easily be fixed. Since it's a centralized solution, right, we can do so immediately. There is tech support 7 days a week, 8 a.m. to midnight. So that's really it. I encourage everybody to take a look. The call to action is go to lab.nationalcyberwatch.org. You get more information specifically about the pricing. So although the solution is free to schools, free to faculty, there is a fee to students. That's $80 per access code per course. The access code is good for 6 months. And we're happy to help work with you and your bookstore on getting these access codes in the bookstore. We're also going to be piloting a direct-to-student solution this spring. It's not too late to get National CyberWatch Center labs in your classes. The other call to action is if you want to see a demo of the environment specifically as it's integrated in my school's LMS, reach out, send an email to info at nationalcyberwatch.org. That's info at nationalcyberwatch.org, requesting a demo, and we'll happily set one up. We can do it in 15, 20 minutes. Can show you all the benefits of the solution, run through a couple tutorials, show you the interface, no problem. So we'd love you to be using this solution. And the last thing I want to just mention is we've got upwards of about 60 schools that are using it now. This comprises 2 4-year and graduate programs throughout the country. And again, we just launched this in August. We've got plans to continue to build out additional lab content. There are 17 more National CyberWatch Center courses in our curriculum offering, and we plan on building out lab content for all of those. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining, and have a great night. Take care.